Thank you. My name is Nyang Njie. Coming up on your show, the news review today, Davo, that's UDP leader, held a meeting in Dungu Kebe, North Bank region. As his tour of the nation continues, Comium also held a press conference today amid its suspension by the government. There, also the 3-year project there by the EU Tekifi GIZ project has ended last week in Basse. My guest today will be Nyang Njie. We will be talking about the Comium crisis there. Before we get into the show proper, we will go through the newspapers and see what they are saying today. I will begin with the Standard newspaper. The lead story today is saying APRC spokesman defends NPP coalition. I think Amul Nyasi is speaking on this issue for the very first time, saying the spokesperson of the APRC, Amul Nyasi, has said the party is not anticipating any comments or clarification from former President Yahya Jammeh on the alliance with the National People's Party, that is NPP. The APRC executive is in bitter war of words with a splinter group calling itself Operation No to Alliance or Coalition, who claimed former President Jammeh is not in support of the party's alliance with NPP. Neutral observers anticipate that Jammeh would at some point reveal his position on the matter. However, in his first media interview on the alliance with Star FM's Panderi Toure to be broadcast tomorrow, Amul Nyasi said, "We are not expecting Jammeh's call or comments about the alliance before the election because it is not necessary, and to say that Jammeh will release an audio to go against the alliance is ridiculous. If Jammeh wishes to discuss politics, I am sure he will contact Fabakary Tombong Jatta." So this is Amul Nyasi's first interview on this issue. All the time it has been Duduja, his deputy. Away from that, fire destroys house in Brikama Nyambai. A house in Brikama Nyambai recently caught fire, resulting in a huge loss of property. The house belonging to one Modu Kamara suffered a significant damage from the fire, which started from the veranda. Modu Kamara said the inferno has caused a big setback to his life. Continental Africa wants government's guarantee to invest 325 million US dollars. That's massive. A project in the Gambia that it wants to start in the Gambia, saying Continental Africa LLC, a US-based company in Delaware, which plans to operate a moringa biodiesel intensive farming project in the country, has urged the Gambia government to provide a 40% backup as a guarantee for the commencement of its project worth $325 million in the country. The project targets to cultivate 30,000 hectares of land with biodiesel plants to generate clean fuel, cultivate perennial crops, including moringa, establish beekeeping, and create aquaponic integrated fish and farming. Let's see the point in newspaper now, saying $3 million US dollars proceeds from Jammeh property reserved for the Gambia. That is the former president's Potomac that he lost there, saying highly placed multiple sources confirmed to the point that proceeds from the sale of the $3 million US dollars Potomac mansion of former President Yahya Jammeh in Maryland will be earmarked for the Gambian people after sales and other procedures followed through by the U.S. Justice Department. Public schools outperform private schools in grade 9 exams. That's also by the Standard, saying Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education has revealed that the public schools in the country outperformed private schools in 2021 Gambia Basic Certificate Examination, GABESE. According to Adama Jimba Job, 19 students with aggregate 6, 12 of the 19 came from public schools, while 7 came from the private schools there. So that will be that for news for us. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So UDP leader Ousainou Darboe is vowing to end the menace of the backway irregular migration in the country. Mr. Darboe is on a tour of the nation. Today he held a meeting in Dungu Kebe, where he called on the people of Dungu Kebe to rally behind the UDP. Here is an excerpt of what Mr. Dabo said to the people of Ndungu Kebe. Dabo is saying he will end the backway irregular migration there. Well, Nyumi in 2019 was hit hard by the backway when more than 50 of its youth perished at sea while trying to travel to Spain. Away from that, Comium today held a press conference amid a huge crisis that has gripped the company. The company was suspended on Monday by Information Minister Ibrahima Silla after it failed to meet a deadline regarding payment of arrears the company owes the government, running into millions of dollars. But then there is a twist, and a new investor has committed to clear off all the debt, thereby Comium. More in this. Monty Mobile has come to the rescue of Comium by committing to knock off all arrears the crisis-gripped company owes. Monty Mobile is the new investor of Comium, and officials announced at a news conference on Wednesday. The investor has now committed to pay off the nearly $70 million in license and other fees Comium owes.
We are doing everything as we speak now. The investor in the midst of us now just texted me and said, if Pura is willing to lift the suspension, they're going to pay everything now.
Comium had earlier on Wednesday issued a statement expressing surprise of its suspension by Pura, even amid what the company said was due settlement and promising negotiations. Comium staff burst into cheers after their technical director made the announcement of the company's investor now committed to settle the company's arrears.
If Pura is willing to lift the suspension, they're going to pay everything now.
The company now wants the government to reverse the suspension.
Everything is clear now. No more any question again, I think. The reason being, we are willing to move forward. So I'm appealing Gambian government, Minister of Communications, Pura, and also Mr. President Aramabaro. We are saying, let the suspension be lifted right now.
Comium got suspended on Monday by Information Minister Ibrahim Sidla after it failed to meet a deadline to settle all arrears.
Imagine owning a home or service plot, enjoying the sunrise and sunset from a beautiful garden, morning hugs and beautiful moments with your loved ones, the never-ending stories, beautiful memories that will last a lifetime, making and sharing great moments with family and friends. You can turn this into a reality. All you need is a tough home.
And welcome back. I'm now joined by Mr. Nyang Njie. He will talk to me there on the Comium crisis there. Thank you, Mr. Njie, for coming.
Welcome and good afternoon, viewers, wherever you are.
You worked for this company, Comium. What is your take on this crisis, this whole saga?
Well, I think first and foremost, a company has a right to live and a right to die. The choices they make during the course of doing business will determine their viability or survival. But I think we need to put this into context to understand why what has happened. Number one, when Comium came into the market, they were the third entrant in the Gambian market. And immediately they turned themselves to the number one company as it relates to technology. Why? They came up with, at the time, what is called GPRS, which is 2.5G. It was able to give subscribers access to the internet. Then through that, Comium had a competitive edge and they built market share and became the second largest company in the Gambia through their subscriber base after Africell. Now, what happened over the years is a result of where we are today, and Pura is to be blamed to a large extent.
What happened over the years?
What happened? Comium, like I said, came in with a superior technology at the time. But the technological landscape is very dynamic and it needs reinvestment. But Comium was plowing out profits out of the market rather than putting back investments into the company. And unfortunately, the technology that Comium happens to have right now is virtually obsolete. What do I mean by it's obsolete? Today, Comium is the only network in town with a 2.5G when everyone else is talking about 4G and maybe the possibility of having 5G. Where did the regulator go wrong as far as I'm concerned? The regulator went wrong because they should have been asking Comium to give them viable investment plans to see what they're going to do for their subscribers. The subscribers on the Comium network deserve to have the best of technologies like any other network. Africell at some point was on the 2G, they migrated to 3G, now even having 4G. QCell is on 4G, Gamcell is on 4G. and 3G. So why did Comium for the past 8 years didn't do anything other than expanding the network as it relates to voice coverage? Because the ISP they're providing today, the internet service, is not an integral part of their telecommunication network. It's a standalone where they can give you internet to your house, office, or wherever, but it's not incorporated into their IN platform, meaning it's not part of the 2 or 3G systems they have.
So this company is on the brink of dying, and then you are saying the regulator, PURA, to a large extent is to blame. But in terms of the other part that, I mean, let's say triggered all of this, the issue of Comium's inability to pay all these liabilities, all these license, and why do you think the company has not even been able to do that?
Well, see, in the telecom world, we use a benchmark called ARPU, ARPU, average revenue per user. Today, Comium has less than 36,000 subscribers.
They are saying 150,000.
You see,
yes.
They need to be honest. There's
so
what you call...
They're lying.
No, they need to be honest. And the honesty is active and attached. Active subscribers are people who over the past 30 days or 45 days have recharged or received a call.
Yes.
That's active subscriber. And your ARPU is based on your active subscriber base. Mm-hmm. What they have right now, they have maybe 130,000 attached, but that 130,000, on any given day, no more than 36 to 40,000 are actively transacting on the network. So therefore, their active subscriber base is less than 40,000, number one. And that's not
And
enough.
they are not saying that to the citizens.
Well, it's not their responsibility to say it to the citizens, but
but it's their responsibility. We asked them at the press conference. The reporter asked them.
No, the citizens have rested their own issues and affairs to the regulator. For one, Comium, they didn't owe what their outstanding liability is not over a 12-month calendar period. It's almost 24 months. So they are overdue in terms of their requirement, both with the taxes and regulatory fees. But we need to understand, like I said, why this has been happening. It's been happening because Comium has been milking their investment rather than plowing back into the sector. If you look at the growth at QCell, you look at the growth with Gamcell,
yes.
You look at the growth with AfriCell, they are reinvesting in technology, thereby making their subscribers having value for money. Comium, on the other hand, we're doing capital flight. And all it takes is for you to look at their books. If you look at their books, what you're going to see is expenses. And wherever a company has more expenses than revenue, they're not making money. But theoretically, it doesn't mean they're not making money. It's called transfer pricing. And in transfer pricing, what happens? Let's say today, Nyang Njie owns a company in Senegal. He sends Nyang Njie there as a consultant or as a staff. And he puts in his book in Gambia that Nyang Njie, I'm sending him to Senegal, I'll be paying him 7 million. So it means from the company that Nyang Njie owns in Senegal, they will be billed 7 million by my company in Gambia, and my company in Gambia will receive 7 million from my company in Senegal to be paid to my company in Gambia. That doesn't mean the 7 million is Lamin's salary, but that's how much I have put for Lamin's salary, and that is capital flight. So these are things I think is a lesson.
So this capital flight was happening even while you were working there?
Naturally, because see, investors, they always want to reduce their tax
liabilities.
They
want to evade tax.
No. There's a difference between evading and avoiding. It's legal. That's tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is legal. So you do what you call transfer pricing. And when you do transfer pricing, it's up to the regulator to be able to see these things, point them out, and hope that a remedial course of action will be put in place.
Now, if you have only less than 40,000 active subscribers, then you have a new investor who has come to say, okay, look, in fact, in the middle of a press conference, the investor says, I am going to settle all arrears.
Two things. I think just like the banking sector in the Gambia, the telecom sector has been saturated. And the saturation of the telecom sector is not to the interest of the consumer. The government may be getting license fees, but quality of service has been a problem. Why? If you even happen to have 20,000 subscribers and you happen to have 800,000 subscribers, you still buy an IN, Intelligent Network Platform, which we call a switch. So the company with 800,000 subscribers can spread the cost over the subscriber base. Yes. The company with a smaller one will not. And this affects quality of service. And quality of service has been affected a lot. So I think the best policy decision the government should take is not, even if an angel investor comes in to help bring Comium, it's a good thing. I applaud it. But this would have been an opportunity to sanitize the environment and make sure that Gambia doesn't have more than 3 operators. Then the operators will be able to be in a position to make good money. And when they make good money, they should be expected to give good services. But for operators in a country where we have less than 1.7 million subscribers, to be honest, the return on investments will not be too lucrative. So size is a disadvantage for the Gambia. And the more we have operators in town, the quality of service, whether we like it or not, will be on the other side.
How about the other way around? The more companies you have, the better the service, because he who has better service than you, quality service than you,
no, but they all have costs.
Will tend to, yes.
But companies have costs, like
yes.
like I've said earlier. These costs, there's nothing you can do. You have to buy a switch. You have to put sites all over. A place like Brikama, if you put up a site today, in less than 2 weeks, the site will be absorbed out of capacity. You need to improve on capacity. Yeah. So these are all additional costs. And if they don't have it, what do? They leave the network as it is. Then guess what? The call drop rates will go up. Some networks will go to a point they have to initiate what you call a half bit rate, and the voice quality on the calls significantly drop. Yes, Pura is monitoring, but I don't think Pura will have the capacity to monitor everything to make sure that 99% of the time we get the best value for money. But government, if it comes up with a deliberate approach to say it's time for consolidation. For me, the move that has just happened is an automatic natural consolidation within the sector, and it would have been ideal for government to say, look, let's forego the license fees we're going to collect. Let's forego the potential revenue Comium will add to the telecom sector. Let's make sure the existing players in the market have a chance to grow their market base, provided the quality of service will improve. Then Gambia will be better off as it relates to telecommunication.
Now you have this staff. They are talking about 120 staff thereabout, all in this dilemma, not knowing what is really going to happen. And now Comium is saying, give us another chance. Do you really think, because really, in terms of innovation and ideas and technology, these are very important for a business such as Comium to be alive, to live. Do you really think Comium will be able to stand the test of time?
Well, once again, we all applaud and love foreign direct investments into countries. And when we do receive foreign direct investments, we're not only looking at the taxes that are paid by this company, but the improvement of human resource and human capital of the country. At Comium, you go to the technical space. There are local Gambians who can fill a lot of posts that are filled today by Lebanese staff. These are expatriates. Why? Best known to the company and their investment practices. But to be honest, the Gambian cadre within Comium are all, majority of them, maybe 1 or 2, the head of legal, maybe the technical director, maybe, but bulk of them are on the bottom of the totem pole, from the drivers to just regular technical workers and commercial workers. It's high time that these foreign direct investments coming in also make sure they empower local Gambians to make sure that they feel in senior positions in these companies.
And finally, let's now discuss something, a different issue, subject. This has to do with global home, the global home property, previously occupied by anti-crime. Anti-crime left, but there is a lot of row around that property. What's your take on it?
Well, my take is the government must respect the laws of the land. That company was set up by a Korean philanthropist. He passed. And when he passed, he had ownership of part of that land, not the whole land, but part of that land. And his ownership was as strong as him having a lease. Yahya Jammeh confiscated the property without due process or compensation. After the fall of Jammeh, these people went to court, won their case. A court ruling and a court order giving them back their property. You expect that the Inspector General of Police, being the law enforcer of the land, will not only respect but enforce the decision of a court. So as far as I'm concerned, from day one, the anti-crime unit were squatting in a private property. Now they have moved. This would have been time for government to have a saving grace and say, look, we've been squatting, we're going to let sleeping dogs lie, but unfortunately, the government happens to have an interest by way of OIC to use part of that land and existing land adjoining the area for a project. Now, let the government invoke the eminent domain clause that the greater good of society needs this land because what we want to put there will benefit society. Therefore, we want to take it. But in return, we want to give you fair market value compensation. And that way, government will be seen as respecting the laws of the land. But what I have seen on video is troubling because a law enforcer cannot be a law violator. And the Inspector General of Police has clearly violated a court order because the sheriff came and handed over the property to the rightful owner by way of the lease that they have and by way of a court order issued by a high court judge. So now if the police, the law enforcers of the land, are law violators, what does that say about our country and law enforcement?
I think at some point the police backed out after finding out or realizing that the property was handed over to the owners by the sheriff division.
No, but it should not have even gotten to that point because that's not the first time those people came there. They even came there when anti-crime occupied the space. So the police command, there is no way they can say they are not aware of the court judgment. Because if a court judgment happens, the sheriff is an enforcer.
Yes.
So when the sheriff comes, it's the law that is coming. So how can a law enforcer violate a court order? That in itself cannot be explained. But like I said, the way out of this is for government to invoke eminent domain, negotiate with the owners, give them fair market compensation, then society wins and also the rule of law in our country wins.
What is your view on Esa Fahl's campaign? He said his campaign will reach out to the opposition parties to come and join him.
Well, I think so far he is beating the expectations of many of his doubters. Well, he came out late as far as I'm concerned. Does he have a message? Well, at least his message is resonating with a certain group of people and we are seeing crowds following him. Does that give him a value proposition? Yes. Now, can he sit on a table and negotiate? The answer is yes, because he happens to have equity. How much equity does he have? That will be measured by the political actors he is going to interact with for them to see whether it's worth their while to rally behind him or it's worth his while to rally behind him. And that's not for Nyang Njie to say because Nyang Njie is not a political actor. But I believe that Esa now happens to have equity that he can bring to the table to talk. But also, looking at just the politics, Esa Fahl's candidature will be a detriment to the current president.
Why?
Why? One, Banjul may not have a lot of votes, but he's a true son of Banjul. And most likely, if they rally behind him, it's very conditional. If they rally behind him, it will be detrimental. One. Two, Esa happens to be a progressive. And in progressive politics, you're looking at CA and DOI. So he will also eat most likely from CA and DOI, in terms of people who were likely to vote for these people to come to him, because the ideology or the perception that most voters have is that SR is a progressive candidate.
Do you see a grand coalition
No.
happening?
No.
Why?
A grand coalition cannot be bigger than the coalition that NPP happens to have, but it's a grand coalition made of hot air. What is hot air? Henry Gomez and his party, I mean, I'm talking about, when you say grand, I'm thinking of numbers. Henry Gomez and his party are very insignificant nationwide. You look at PPP as a party, they're in turmoil. So it's not adding much value. APRC as a party are going through struggles and hurdles. So for me, the grand coalition within the political space right now is the NPP alliance, but it is on shaky grounds to the point that NPP within itself, there are tussles and struggles, and these struggles is one for superiority, leadership, and who has influence. So honestly,
I was referring to an opposition grand coalition.
Oh, okay.
You don't see that happening?
Well, an opposition grand coalition right now, it's going to be difficult. Why? I can't fathom or see DOI coming into any coalition that they are not going to be in the driver's seat. Truth be told. And
how about UDP?
UDP, who are they going to coalesce with? It's only Mama Kande.
You think Mama Kande will agree at all?
No, I'm not saying he will agree or not. I'm just saying today, the likelihood of a UDP-DOI alliance are very slim to none. Personality crash, ideology clash, etc., etc. Mama Kande, if he has to do his homework, I don't think it is advisable for him to come into a coalition with UDP at this point.
Why?
It's not to his advantage.
Why is that the case though?
Unfortunately, we live in a country where tribal sentiments dictate a lot in our politics. Sad. It is a sad fact, but it's the reality on the ground. The Nyamina by-election, most likely if Mama Kande went alone, he would have had it easy because it's a turf that he is known.
Yeah.
But if Mama Kande happens to stand alone today, he is going to share a lot of fuller votes with the president. If Mama Kande joins a coalition, especially with the UDP, most of his fuller sympathizers will end up voting for the president.
So he's going to lose that.
This is sad, like I said, but it's the reality of our political environment. And that's what we need to change if we want our politicians to be effective and accountable. If we want our country to get the most out of the people who want to lead us.
Mr. Nyang Njie, thank you for coming.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Before we go, we have another story regarding the 3-year project of the EU take fee / GIZ. I'm not sure that story is ready, so we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you for being there. We'll be back tomorrow.